Coming up, I'm going to share with you a very interesting growth hack and one of my favorite case studies of the year. Stay tuned. What is up, App Nation? It is Steve P. Young, founder of appmasters.com. And we've got an interview that I did with the folks at Adapty, where Vitaly, their CEO, interviewed me for their blog. And we turned that into a blog article that you can read if you don't want to watch my face on here. And I'll link that into the show notes. But it talks all about how to get your early users for absolutely free. What's the toughest part about being the app subscription business? And the fastest app that we grew to date. And spoiler alert, it just happened this year. All right, let's bring in Vitaly.
Hi, Steve. How are you doing?
I'm good. How you doing?
All right, thank you for joining this interview. I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions about mobile. You know, you're a big expert in mobile subscriptions and probably you have the largest channel about how to monetize your mobile app, whether it's a subscription app or even a game. We all know about it. What's your opinion about what's the hardest thing about monetizing consumer subscriptions?
Man, the hardest thing is really, I think, the growth. Honestly, I think with all the tools out there, the bottom of the funnel, I mean, maybe because I focus on that a lot too, that I feel like if an app has downloads, Vitaly, we can make more money, right? If the app already has downloads and they're getting decent downloads, we can make money from that. We know what paywalls work. We know what we can kind of figure that stuff out. I think that's the hardest equation to solve is when you have no downloads and you have no paying subscribers. But if you have downloads and no paying subscribers, we can fix that equation. Or if you have paying customers, but you need more downloads, we can fix that too. But when it becomes an XY equation, that's how I like to say it. When it becomes an XY equation where I don't have any downloads and I don't have any paying customers, that becomes the hardest part of this. And I think too many times people are coming in trying to build the end solution, the 5-year feature set versus like the 1-year feature set because they see their competitors and they're like, hey, look at, they have all this stuff. We're so much better. I hear that all the time, right, Vitaly? You might hear it all the time too. It's like, oh, we're so much better than our competitors. I'm like, yeah, I hear it from everybody. Let's prove it. Let's let the market decide because the market doesn't care what this little feature that you have is much better than your competitors. The market just cares about what they care about, right? What they want out of the app.
Let's say we're in a hard case, right? Let's say I'm an indie developer, I have a full-time job, and I want to get some dollars for my side project. This is probably a reasonable goal, and we see tons of indie developers to do this. Let's say I've developed a new application. Maybe it's a simple utility app or a simple photo editor or something like that. I have literally no idea about how to get the first subscriber or the first dollar from this application. What would you recommend me to do? Maybe first 1, 2, 3 steps besides from watching your YouTube channel. Of course, this is definitely the first step that every developer must do. I really think so, but what are the next steps?
So here's what I would say. If you got a photo editor, if you already have an idea, then just think about top of the funnel. And I had a conversation with the indie dev out there, David. I'll just say his first name. Thank you, David. At an event, we were talking about like ASO and ASA being a good starting point for these beginner apps, Vitaly. So you can start cheaply testing because with ASA, you just need keywords. You don't need the Meta SDK. You don't need anything. All you need is just the keywords just to get some downloads, to get your numbers. Your trial activation, start trial, your trial to paid, everything that Adapty already reports back to you. What are those numbers? If those numbers look good, so you're getting a +5 trial start, over 30% trial to paid, then you got pretty solid numbers. That's industry average. I don't know what you guys have heard or what you guys have seen from all the clients you work with, but from what I heard from other sources is about 2% install to paying customers is on average. So if you're already at that mark, then it's just bringing in more downloads at the numbers that you need to get it at. But I would start with ASO and ASA because they're the easiest. I have a growth hack that I love to run. I'm going to share my screen real quick. And this is my favorite growth hack to run. So it's an app advice campaign. And Vitaly, we'll need a lifetime offer. So those who are watching this, a lifetime offer needs to be a non-consumable in-app purchase. Don't make it a subscription. It's not a subscription. It's a non-consumable in-app purchase. That's the only thing you can bring down to zero. So the in-app purchase there. So what we do is we do the ASO, we give a lifetime offer away for free. So if you got a photo editor app, maybe this is a bad keyword, but you have photo editor in the title, you have remove background in the subtitle, whatever those main keywords are, do that keyword research, and then you run it on app advice. You're going to make your lifetime offer I don't care how high you price it. Price it at $199. I don't care, $149. But make it expensive. We're going to make it free for just 2 days on app advice. Because we've done the ASO and we're asking for the review prompt early on in the app user journey, that first time open, here's what's going to happen. All right, Vitaly, here's our favorite case study of this year, 2024. We did 106,000 downloads for an AI app that's in the transcription space. And we did 800 new ratings, 200 in the US, 600 worldwide. And we made $7,000 within the first month of this app.
Wow,
And to
with
give you,
ASO.
with ASO only, dude, to give you some context, the app was making about $100 a month. And the client came to me and said, hey, Steve, should I run Apple search ads? And I said, you have 5 reviews and you're making about $100. Let's try this growth hack real quick because I think I can get you to at least $1,000 in revenue. Like the whole idea of this, Vitality, was I knew about 1% of the downloads would leave a review. Before I start any type of paid marketing, I want my app in the app stores to look like they've got some traction, about 100 reviews, good ASO, then I'm off and running. And so now what we've been able to do with this app, in August of 2024, we've been able to hit $10,000 in revenue, just pure organic. Now we can start think, all right, we've got the numbers, we've got the traction, and now we can start thinking through meta strategy. How do we really scale this from $10,000 to 20 to ultimately 50 to 100,000? That is an indie app story. And I love this success story because he was just making a few $100s. He wanted to run Apple search ads. I said, hold up, before we do that, let's try this. And then let's run Apple search ads. So I told him, Vitaly, I think I can make $1,000 from this whole campaign. And then now once you have $1,000 that you've made, you can reinvest that money rather than always investing from your savings, reinvest from your revenues is how I like to frame it.
Sounds really cool. Is there a particular benchmark or a threshold where you think it's time to start scaling with social media ads like TikTok or Meta or Google? All right, I started with ASO. I did my research, maybe when using free tools. I started to do ASA or something like that as a next step. All right, I see some traction. It is really hard to scale ASA, right? Because yeah, it's a good starting point, but the volume is limited because not everyone uses search in the App Store, but you get a quality traffic. So when is it a good time to start scaling into social media?
I would say anywhere from, let's say, 1,000 and up. And I'll tell you my story too. I was able to make 1,000 just organically from our apps. We tried to run Apple search ads and we got it up to 3,000 at a positive ROAS, like a 2x ROAS, right? Spending about 1,000, making 3,000. So that's a combination of organic and ASA. And then I was like, I can't scale it anymore. So after a few months of just being stuck there with ASA, I was like, damn, I need something else. So now it's time to really think about a different channel. But I think it got me to a certain point. So had I known all this before, I would have definitely started with just $1,000, right? I'm in a better position right now. I'm not doing this on the side. I've got money to spend, all that stuff. I got money to invest in this. So I would probably say, get to that first 1,000. And then if you're going to be patient, go ahead and continue with it. But if you're going to be impatient and you want faster results, go ahead and start that after that 1,000.
Is it 1,000 per month, like 1,000 MRR, or 1,000 revenue, let's say in like 3 months?
I would say MRR. I feel a little bit more comfortable with an MRR. Yeah. But those are just my numbers, right? Like the way I always frame it, because I always get this question is, how patient are you? Because if you're patient, keep going, right? That took me like from March was our highest month, 3,000, spending 1,000. And then ever since then, we've teetered around 3,000. And now we're in September. That's 6 months later. So obviously I was patient, but I wish I went a little bit faster. And knowing what I know now, we're launching a brand new app in the AI space that I'm heavily trying to invest some capital behind. And I'm going to deploy the strategy that I just shared with you, this growth hack. And then we're just going to run, Facebook ads pretty much soon after that. I feel confident in what we're going to do because I've also found, Vitaly, like if I had to pick a client that had UA and needed help with ASO, I'll pick them. But if I had a client that just said, I need help with ASO only, and that is my only growth channel, I'm like, you are putting me in a tough position to lose. Yes, I can win. I'm that good. I'm just kidding. Yes, I can win where I feel like I'm good enough that like this case study, but this is not the norm, right? This is a great case study that when it works beautifully, but it doesn't always work as well.
Let's say I start a paid user acquisition, right? And I post back my revenue data and downloads data back to ad networks. So I have a cost per install, cost per free trial activation, cost per paid subscriber, and so on. Which one would you use to optimize the campaign?
The trial. You always try to optimize. Some people are even going away from this and not having a trial and just going straight to purchase. And so that might be working for certain AI apps, but I would say optimizing for the trial is the way to go. All the best practices will tell you optimize for the purchase event, whatever that may be. So if you're a game, then that first purchase or that first level that initiates the first purchase. I know it's a lot of data, but for more subscription based apps, which you and I really play in, I would say just start a campaign looking for people more likely to activate a trial.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with it because of scan, to be honest, because of
Yeah.
this Apple privacy stuff. You're really only able to pause back the first event, not the renewal event. So definitely you should optimize for the first purchase event or for the first trial event. This is definitely what you want to do. I 100% agree with it. All right, let's say I optimized my user acquisition campaign, the paid user acquisition campaign, and then we're inside the application. What are the reasonable next steps to get more money?
So I would just optimize the onboarding, the paywall. I mean, that's really it. You guys came up with the number, I think is like 60 to 80%. We've talked about this offline too. If you do nothing else, optimize that onboarding, optimize that paywall. That is what is going to get you the biggest bang for your buck in there. Once you get the downloads, just start optimizing. And people ask me all the time, how soon should I optimize? Right the freaking way, in my opinion. Okay. Because for me, I want to test how willing people are willing to pay for the long time. And I know you and I did content together, and I said, Vitaly, how would you launch a brand new app? And you said hard with a hard paywall, and I was like, tell what is a hard paywall? And it's the first time I heard somebody call it that, and I was like, oh, interesting. So I like to give credit where credit's due, but I'm like, oh, that's perfect, and that's what we just did. And I still remember that conversation because I was like, I was against a hard paywall. I thought that was very scammy, but as my old boss said, let's let the data tell us. Let's not let our opinions decide what we're going to do. Let the data decide what we're going to do. And the data told us that a hard paywall does really work well for certain niche apps. So if you're just starting out, maybe even test like your advice. I follow that advice. I think it works better. Just force them. Long term, you might not want to do a hard paywall, but if you're a niche app, Vitaly, like I talked to somebody that we talked to months ago, and I met them in person, and they were like, Steve, follow that hard paywall advice, and it worked like a charm. And I was like, yep.
Especially for utility apps, we see a lot of hard paywalls to be the best compared to free trials or even other introductory offers. So it's definitely something. If you have a VPN app, for example, you should consider this. At least try it. What are the most popular mistakes when you want to make an experiment with your payment screen?
On the paywall, I would say no call to action. I've seen that frequently. And look, I think users are not always smart. They're not very techy like we are. We're in the app space, so we feel like everybody should understand. So the biggest mistake is sometimes I'll just see the plans and no button. And people just assume that people are going to click one of the plans to initiate the checkout. Like, don't do that. Just put the call to action. Everybody likes buttons. Put a big button that says get started. We've A/B tested the call to action. We've seen continue work the best versus start free trial on iOS and start free trial. So shout out to Timo, who was in our community. He did that, and he saw that start free trial did better on Android. So that was his case study. Continue versus start free trial. Continue on iOS, start free trial on Android. I would say that. I think the other pitfall is probably undercharging. We'll see case studies, and somebody in my community, John, he tested $20 versus $30. He was $20 for the longest time in the US. He moved it to 30. Vitaly, get this. Not only did he make more money because he was charging more, he actually saw his conversions go up. That's a win-win. Usually you increase the price and the conversion goes down a little bit, but you just make more money and it offsets everything. But he saw the exact opposite. His trial conversions went up as well as his revenues, obviously, right?
I have a really interesting example where one of our friends they tried to scale their application from the US market to Brazil market. At first, they tried the same pricing and it didn't work out at all because like they don't want to pay like $15 a month. This is too expensive. And so what they did is they decreased the price by something around 50%, but 1 year LTV increased by 30% because they got much more renewals. It was extremely unexpected because in reality, when you want to optimize your subscription application, you want to optimize not really the first conversion rate. These are really nice proxy metrics. What you really target is LTV of a year or something like that, right? So this use case was something I did not expect, to be honest. What's your largest subscription check that you ever paid?
I don't think it's been that much. The only one that comes to mind is Calm. I signed up for their lifetime offer. So I'd already signed up for the year. And then I'm going to assume Calm is this smart. I signed up in December of a certain year. Then following November I get an email saying, hey, get 50% off the lifetime. And I was already considering whether I should keep the yearly or should I discontinue it, right? I was already thinking on that. And then it's like a 7-day sale. And then it's like a last chance. And I was like, fudge it. Let's just do it. And so I pay them $150 for the lifetime offer and then the $60. So they got 210 out of me, something like that. So yeah, that would be probably the highest.
How many active subscriptions do you have yourself beside Calm?
That's a good question. I probably have like 6 or 7. I've got a lot because I have all the streaming services. If you want to count that, that might not show up in the App Store. And then just here alone, not take all the subscription services away, I probably have 8 subscriptions right now, just on my iPhone subscription stuff.
Quite a decent number. Yeah, I have only one.
You gotta support the developers.
Yeah, true. We do also as well. Yeah, I only subscribe to Strava besides streaming services. My only subscription is Strava. What's the fastest growing app you worked with? You can say just numbers. You can avoid saying the name, but just curious.
I avoid saying the names half the time just because I didn't get their permission. But I would say the one I just worked on, the one that we just took to really like 6 figures ARR within the first few months. And that was the fastest. Like I've seen other things where we've taken it like, 2,000, 3,000 and then 4,000 and then it had to work for that. But this one just like hit. And I think the other one I worked with too, I shared the hard paywall strategy. We took an app that was already making about $1,000 and we flipped it to 8 to 10,000, just optimizing the paywall and the onboarding. Hard paywall, by the way, Vitaly. And we saw 10,000 with a hard paywall, but 5,000 with a soft paywall. And so using Adapty, which that app did, we were able to change some things around on the paywall without needing a new update. And so that really worked out well. But that would be the fastest growing because Tally, we didn't even do anything to the ASO. It was already doing downloads, about 100 downloads a day. That's why I said, when I say all you need is 100 downloads a day to have a 6-figure business, just because I really just did it. Right? Like I did it. We're doing this with this app too. Those would be the 2 that come to mind.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.